Hi, everybody. It's that time again. Time to take a little walk through the module. And this week we will be focusing on Module 5. So if you want to click on the module button and follow along with me, we'll start with the overview. So essentially in Module 5, we're going to be building on our problem solution proposal, and we're going to start working on our multimodal presentation invention exercises. So by the end of the module, we're really going to be confronting those dominant Western white rhetorical concepts by gaining an experience and reading a diverse range of texts rhetorically, and we're going to be practicing giving feedback. So in order to learn to negotiate and integrate these ideas that are from different writers and authors and things that you're seeing, we're going to be reflecting on evolving composing practices to transfer knowledge to other situations. So that's a lot of information. What does it all mean? The first place to get started in finding out what all of that means is, of course, to go to the Top Hat materials. So you'll be going through the Module 5 Top Hat materials this week, and that should give you some great insight into everything that we're going to be covering and some good tips on how to work on the upcoming assignments. So there's going to be some things in Module 5. You have some additional learning materials to take a look at. If you hit the next button, you'll see that there are a couple of things to read here. I'll just highlight those. The first one is how do I create my advocacy ad, PSA, and then layout sins, 13 amateur errors that you'll be taking a look at. And I think that's going to give you some good tips and some clues on how to put your best foot forward as we move through Module 5. So to get started, after you've read those things, then you can go ahead over to our discussion on multimodality. And that will be, I think, very exciting and engaging discussion as we begin to prepare for you to create something of your own, original advocacy ad or a video public service announcement for your project. And so you're going to get to choose an example. So you're going to find a real world example depending on the genre that you're working in for your problem solution project. And so, just go ahead and do a Google search for those. You might find them on YouTube or other social media engines. And so as you take a look at the example, you have to keep in mind that the content of the example doesn't have to be related to your topic of interest because you're going to be designing your own. So it's really just going to give you kind of a model to follow. So then we're going to move on to step 2, the analyze and compose process. And you're going to, in 1 to 2 paragraphs, analyze your chosen advocacy ad or video PSA by responding to the following questions. And you're going to want to put some specific examples in there in order to give us a better sense of where you're going and what you're working on. So make sure to include or hit all 4 questions, and then take a look at the logos, the ethos, and the pathos. And those things you should have covered in your English 101 course, but just as a brief overview. The logos is, of course, the facts, the data, maybe charts, graphs, those types of things. The ethos is how you're going to gain your viewers' trust. Like, what is the credibility of the author writing the material? So when you're looking at a secondary source, you're analyzing the credibility of your author. Like, is that author an expert in the field? And when you're looking at your primary work, you're thinking about, like, how are you an expert in this field now that you've been working on it? What credentials do you have to contribute to this project, this problem, this solution, and what is going to make your viewers believe in you. Like, do you have some experience with what you're discussing here? You might be looking at that. So pathos is, of course, that appeal that you make to your audience. That's an emotional appeal, right? It really grabs at our heartstrings. Think of something that you've maybe watched on television that makes you kind of like want to cry, or that sends chills down your spine, right? Those are pathos type arguments because they're really like hitting us on that emotional feeling level. So you can have a chance to explore some of that. And then you're going to be applying these rhetorical strategies to your own project by answering the questions in step 3. And then after you've completed all that and you've put your post together, you'll be, of course, completing your peer responses like we do every week. Your mentor will be taking a look at those. I'll be taking a look at the discussion board and chiming in as well. So the next thing you'll notice if you click the next button is multimodality discussion response. And this is essentially, what you've already been working on: giving a compliment, making a connection, including a comment, and asking a question. And then there's an example here for you and some resources that you can look at. So those are just sort of reminders of what we're doing. So then the next part, as you toggle over, will be the counter-argument supplementary research. And here is where you're going to learn to negotiate and integrate a bunch of different ideas and perspectives that you've done some research on. And of course, going through Top Hat is going to help you get started on that also. So if you take a look at the instructions, you will be step 1, reflect on the research. So this is the research process so far. As you've noticed, we've been breaking it down into components. And so you're going to be reflecting on things like what you've learned along the way, what challenges you've encountered, how did you resolve those challenges, right? Reflection is a really important way to learn, and that fits right in with that habit of mind on metacognition. So if you were one of the people that posted in your first reflection that you wanted to work on metacognition, this is a great place to do that. So as you'll see, step 2, then you're going to be conducting your supplementary research. So to make a persuasive argument in support of your solution proposal, you're going to need to address those gaps that you found in your existing research. And you're going to be able to do that by furthering your research, thinking about your audience's objections and concerns, thinking about those counter arguments against what you've discussed so far. So there's a couple of questions that can take you through that process here in step 2. And then you'll be submitting your 500-word, at least 500, it can go over, assignment that fully answers the questions in those 2 steps. And then you'll go ahead and you'll upload that file, making sure first to go back through and use the step-by-step process as a checklist, take a look at the rubric. And then finally, we are going to start drafting. So this is not something that's going to be submitted right now. We're just going to start working on the draft of the project. So, you want to get a head start on that and try to break it down. It says that it's estimated to take 4 to 6 hours. That depends on kind of how quickly you write and process information, how much research you've done so far, how far along you are in the process of reflecting and thinking about these things and what's happening. So just make sure to work on it a little bit each day so it doesn't get to be too overwhelming this week. So go ahead then and think about the instructions here of the things that you're going to put in your draft. So we'll be completing a full rough draft, and you'll be submitting that later on. So make sure to take a look at everything in step 1, compose your project for instructor and peer feedback. And so that's going to be something that you're going to turn into me, and then also for your peers, and you'll do another peer review. And then after you've completed the draft, you're going to be doing a self-assessment that you'll include with that draft. And I usually take a look at that self-assessment so that I can comment directly on some of those things that you've been working on that you feel that you need help with as we move forward into the revising process. So that's all for Module 5. I know it's a lot to think about and work through. So, just break your time up and do your best. And there will be some announcements during the week to help you through the process. And I look forward to our week together.